if you love something, I mean, there's no need to work on it. The work is in where you feel inadequate, where you feel you haven't quite achieved what you want to achieve. That's what we're here to learn and to do.
Actually, all of this, like the anger, the judgment, whatever, they serve a purpose, right? So you need to mind what they're trying to achieve. So we just realized that we never introduce ourselves. I don't even know if people know who we are. And I think it's important for you guys to know who we are. Literally, we always just start the discussion because we're so excited about just having the discussion that we like forget that people don't know who we are. So I am Bamzi. I am a coach. I'm a life coach. I talk about manifestation. I talk about shadow work. And those are things that I like teaching about.
And I am Joy, and I'm a wellness coach.
Yeah, and you're passionate about all things wellness.
All things wellness, very passionate.
We've been reflecting on how we talk to ourselves, because the person that you have with is you, right? You've been with you since you were a child, and you'll always be with you until you grow old, right? So building the relationship with yourself, how you talk to yourself, how you treat yourself, I think it's the most important thing. Because no one else, if you don't talk to yourself lovingly, no one else is going to do that for you.
Absolutely. But I think that's the most difficult thing to do, though, because we tend to be very kind, very caring with other people and what we say to them. But when it comes to ourselves and our internal dialogue, we're constantly bashing ourselves. 100%, I can tell you, I am always consistently bashing myself internally.
Right.
I think I'm so critical of myself. And
do you have any Virgo placements?
I do, yes.
Which Virgo? We're talking about astrology, because I feel like Virgo is like one of those critical astrology signs.
Mercury is in Virgo.
Mercury is in Virgo.
I think so. I'm not so sure.
But Mercury is about communication, no?
I'll have to go back and check. But I do have a Virgo placement.
Right.
But there's just something.
I have a Virgo stellium.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
girl.
I have everything. Mercury, Venus, Mars. Like even Venus, the sign of love, it's in Virgo.
Yeah.
I was. The universe was like, I want you to embody Virgo. Right.
And Virgo that's a beautiful thing.
Virgo, like especially Venus.
Venus
is a sign of love and a sign of beauty. Right. So sometimes it, like the way I love can be, and this is I'm literally putting myself out there. Like I'm like, you know, sometimes it's like I have to be aware that sometimes the way I love other people can be like I'm criticizing the other person. So it's something that I have to be constantly aware of. And you only criticize other people because you're critical of yourself. Right? And that's especially if you're not aware, you're going to project that to other people. Right. So it's something that I have to realize, because I was reading my Venus, like the sign of love. And it's like it can be very critical. That's what it says. Right? And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is like part of what I have to do work on in this lifetime. And as long as I'm aware, right, of that part of me, like if I'm noticing that I'm projecting that to other people, I need to realize, wait, I'm criticizing myself. Like the only reason you project to other people is because you haven't made that part conscious. Right? If you make it conscious and you realize the times you criticize yourself, you're going to be aware and catch yourself before you project that criticism to other people.
I think
maybe, sorry I interrupted you, sorry.
No, that's okay, that's fine. I think similar to you, mine really I think comes from, yes, I have a Virgo placement, but that's just one, but I'm actually a Capricorn stellium.
Right.
So even though I might be a Libra, like,
right, a lot of energy is in Capricorn.
I'm a Capricorn. My moon is in Capricorn, so my emotions and how like I have I think about 3 or 4 placements in Capricorn. And Capricorns generally, like, you know, are very like, do this, you need to achieve this, you need to do this, you need to do that. And so sometimes I find like I hold myself to such high standards.
So, Virgo as well.
Very high standards. And so I bash myself up and I beat myself up. And many conversations that I've had with people, like even with my partner in workplaces, and the one thing that consistently comes up is you're the one who's holding yourself up to those standards.
And no one else is
We're
doing
fine.
it. Yeah.
And I'm constantly criticizing. I could have done that better. I could have done this better. I should be here. I should do that. I should do that. Why did you do that? Why did you know? And to other people, I'm doing just fine.
Right.
But to me,
right,
it's like
at
war within myself. And so now, as I'm becoming older and I'm becoming more aware of that internal dialogue within me, I'm becoming very conscious in terms of I want to speak to myself the way I speak to other people, because I tend to be very kind towards other people. I tend to be very accommodating, very forgiving, but then I found that I don't give myself that. And so I'm in this space where I constantly remind myself that you're doing okay, you're fine, you're all is well.
You're doing your best.
You're doing your best. And you made a mistake, that's fine. I don't have to then ruminate over it for 3 or 4 days, thinking about why did I do that? Why did I say that? Why did I? And so I'm being really kind and allowing myself to just be human, to be flawed, and to make mistakes. And I'm learning, I'm actually starting to learn that it's okay. And it has taken a long time for me to get to this phase. And I'm still catching myself in those moments when it's happening. It doesn't mean that it doesn't happen, but then I'm intending, and I've put an intention to be kinder to myself, because the voice that's inside me is the voice that I hear every single day.
But is it your voice? That's actually, as you're talking, I was thinking about this. Is that your voice? Do you think it's your voice? The critical voice, is that you? Because when we talk about you, who are you, right? Yeah. The voice that's coming to your head and that's criticizing, that is not you, right? That is the way that I think about it. Because if it were you, it wouldn't be from your higher self. It would be from your trauma, from your wounds, from your childhood, where people criticize you for something, for being yourself, from expressing yourself, from doing all of these things. So those voices that you were hearing, they've been stuck with you since you were a child. So that is the voice that's coming to remind you, okay, you're not this, you're not that. And the reason I'm saying that is because one time I used to live with this family, and they had a 3-year-old. And I used to love playing with this girl. She was so beautiful. She just loved playing with me.
You mentioned her a lot. I think you really liked her.
Because she also taught me a lot, because when you observe children, they're in their authentic expression, right? You see a lot of things that as adults, we are so disconnected from who we are authentically, right? But a child is free to express themselves. But I noticed that this girl was playing with a doll, and she was so harsh to the doll. She was like, no, I told you this, I told you that, I told you, don't do that, whatever. And she's copying what she's hearing, the adults that surround her, what they're doing.
She's repeating
She's repeating, that's how the adults are talking to their other adults, or they're talking to her, or they're talking to other children. And that's what she's hearing, and she's taking that on and being this is how it's supposed to be. So even if the trauma wasn't inflicted on you, it's what you picked up on, being surrounded by other people. Because when you were a child, you didn't have the capacity to filter the messages that you want to accept. As an adult, you can be I don't want to identify with that thought. I don't want that. I've grown. But as a child, you don't have that capacity. You don't have, you can't do that. You just take that on, and it's programmed to your mind, right? So when that voice comes and you're criticizing yourself, it's not you. Right? You are an observer, your consciousness. But then you have the voice that criticizes you. But sometimes then you have a voice that's loving. Then
it fluctuates.
Then if you're critical, and then the next day you are loving, how can you be both? Those two things cannot exist at the same time. You can't be critical and be loving at the same time. So you are separate from both of these things. So the voice that comes and criticizes you, that is not you. The loving voice, that is your higher self. The critical voice is the wounded programming that you've carried within with you all along your journey. So these two things, none of them are you, but you get to choose which ones to listen to.
Which one to listen to.
You get to choose the loving, because that's what you want to embody, right? You get to be I don't want this critical voice that tells me that I need to be perfect, that I should have done better, right? You don't want that. I want this loving thought, and that is the vehicle that is going to take me to where I see myself, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. And it varies, because there's also days that I wake up and like the world is beautiful and everyone is wonderful and I love myself. And there's, I have those stretches and those moments as well.
Yeah.
Actually quite so many of them. But what I've found is, and I think it's part of being human, it's that when one negative thing happens, even if I have a million other things going right, automatically I'm going to focus on this one thing that has gone wrong. I think that's just part of being, is it part of being human? Why do we have a tendency to fixate on the one thing that's wrong, even when there's like a million other things going right?
I think it's conditioning, first of all. And second of all, I think if you don't have enough awareness to be able to be like, okay, this negative thing is happening, but I'm not going to make any meaning out of it, right? I'm not going to make meaning about me, right? It's happening, has nothing to do with me. Like if you have enough awareness, you're able to see it for what it is and be able to see it as a neutral thing. And therefore you can choose something else. You have choices, right? But when you are identified, you don't have awareness, you immediately identify with it.
That thing,
when you identify with it, then you become it. And it's like all that matters, nothing else.
Yeah.
Nothing else, even if other things are going right, nothing else matters, because that is all you see, because you've identified with it.
Yeah, but it's easier said than done, because that's the
natural
human tendency.
Absolutely.
So we constantly have to cultivate the awareness to be like, this is happening, but it's not me. It's not who I am. I'm not it.
It's so funny that we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
It's so it's so funny. I don't know if word funny is the word that I'm using. Yeah. But this is a message that came to me on Sunday morning as I was meditating. Literally at 3:30. I'm just sitting there. I told you that I've been waking up at 3:33 a.m. Yeah. So I'm lying there, and then I get like it's like a thing that comes in my head, like, because I'm trying to meditate, but then I get this message about fearful thought versus loving thoughts. Yeah. Literally just came, and I was like, okay, what is that about? And I actually wrote it in my notes. The idea of like, how do you choose which thoughts, which voices to listen to, like when things come in your head, right? And I was reflecting it for the last 2 days about like, because thoughts are either fearful or they're loving. Like whatever thought about being critical, like whatever thought about like you're judging yourself, you're shaming yourself, you're being critical, all of those thoughts are fearful. And then you have the loving thoughts, right? So it's either fear or love. So I was reflecting on this, and I was thinking like, in order for you to be able to embody the loving thoughts and choose the loving thoughts as your vehicle, instead of choosing the fearful, because you choose the fearful, it takes you to fear. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And then when you choose the loving, it takes you to loving, because that's where you're headed. So I was thinking about this, and I was like you said, it's easier said than done, because we haven't been taught to disidentify with like the voices, what's going on in your head. Like that's how we operated for so long. And it takes a lot of work to get to a place where you're like, oh, that's not me. That is not me, but I get to choose which one I want, right? It takes a lot of work. And I find that I was reflecting, and I was like, okay, I used to have a hard time with doing that in the past. And I feel like the reason why that was is because my body was not feeling safe, first of all. And when your body is not feeling safe, even when you want to choose the loving thought, right? There's an incoherence between the body and the mind. So you're trying to convince yourself like, oh, I'm going to identify with the loving. But the body is telling a different story. And I was like, okay, the reason why, like, it's even when the thoughts come, because thoughts are going to come, it's a natural thing. Yeah. Thoughts come and go. Even when the thoughts come, I'm not going to prevent them from coming. It's become much easier for me to choose the loving thought because I'm already feeling safe. Because there's a coherence between the body, and therefore like my mind is easily going to believe the loving thought. Whereas when I was unsafe, it's easy for me to identify with the fearful thought and get on that vehicle and then find myself spiraling, right? Instead of like the loving one that takes you to like the expansion that you envision for yourself.
No, I love that. I agree with that. And I think it's something that I need to like practice more and more, because I find I'm in both sides in equal measure. Like when I'm in loving thoughts, I just get flooded with it, and I feel it with my entire being.
Yes, because it's like
equally on the other end, it's like a double-edged sword.
Yes.
On the other side as well, I tend to also feel as intensely thoughts that are fearful, that are this, when I'm spiraling. Of course, I've learned how to catch myself.
It's energy.
How to, I've learned how to catch myself, and I always do. And I come back, I come back to center, and I'm able to, get back on track and get back on the path. And those instances are, they're becoming fewer and fewer, but I still find myself in those moments where for a time, I really spiral, like really spiral. And it can happen. Sometimes it could be a few days, it could be a week, it could be 2 weeks or something. But then I'll come back to center, and then I'll be on the other side. But the question that has been on my mind consistently is why does this happen? Because most of the time, nothing in my external reality
has changed.
Right. That's giving me any reason to be fearful, any reason to criticize myself, any reason to. But I just get into this mode and this feeling, and it's almost like in my mind, I create this scenario, and I'm in that reality, but my external reality is not reflecting any of that. It's an internal process.
Right, because it's an initiation, an invitation that something is not aligned internally. Yeah. Right, so every time, and I've been thinking about this as well, and we've talked about this several times.
Yeah, we have.
Every single time there's a contrast. Every single time there's resistance. When something you like, nothing has changed, like you said. Like it's just something shifted where your mind is now spiraling. Yeah. Right. It's because something is misaligned. So it's an invitation. It's an invitation to go and see, like, okay, what is going on there? Like, what is my mind? What is the story that my thought is telling?
Creating.
What is the story being created here? And where is that story emerging? Like we've talked about before. The idea of like criticizing yourself and having so high standards of yourself and wanting to be perfect, that is rooted in a deeper thing of wanting to project this thing of like wanting to be perfect, right? And I don't
think it's perfection. I don't think I chase perfection, but I expect a lot of myself.
Of yourself, yeah.
But perfection, I wouldn't say I identify with perfection, not necessarily, but I just always want to do things right. I want to do things right by myself, by others, by other people, that's kind of like,
but
for me.
How is that different from wanting perfection? To be perfect? To do things right the right way with your standards, with other people, how is that different from perfect? Because I think the words are interchangeable.
Yeah, they're interchangeable.
I really see that as the same thing.
For me, how I define perfection comes from most of the, like you're masking, like you're doing something, either to portray a certain image, to portray a certain, I don't know, for me that's how I view perfection. Like you're doing something to portray a certain image, right. It's more for external validation, like this has to be this way, even though like in the background, behind the scenes, it really is not like that. Right. And I think in this day and age, we've seen it like on social media, and I'll use this example where, couples come on Instagram and it's like couple goals and we don't fight and everything is perfect. Or on Instagram where we basically just see like the highlights of people's lives. And then something happens, a scandal happens, and then the truth comes out. It's like behind the scenes, it's not what we've been seeing as a picture perfect that's being portrayed. Like there's so much more there. And so for me, that's perfection. Perfection is creating a certain image that's almost like plastic, but it's like what you're showing to the world, but that's not who you are. That's how I view perfection.
Because I view it as also like, like if you're in your job, you have like so high standards of wanting to do the right thing and wanting that if you have a deliverable, you want to get that deliverable, like you want to make it perfect. So that kind of like then delays, like you're just working because you're trying to perfect it. That's also right. So that's for me, it's like that's how I see perfectionism. It's like wanting to just like, it's not perfect yet.
There's something else that can be tweaked,
something is missing. It's not perfect yet. It's not perfect yet. And you want to keep improving. And I've found myself like, okay, this is not good enough. Like I make a video, because I create videos for TikTok, and I'm like, that's not, I find myself in those spaces where like, okay, this is not good enough. It's not perfect. It's like I'm trying to achieve this thing that's perfect, right? With perfectionism, it does not exist. But I find myself wanting, like, oh my gosh, like I need to change something. I need to tweak this. That stops me from doing. That stops me from like just creating for the sake of creating, right? Because it's like this voice that's telling me like that's not good enough. And so how I think about it is like, okay, like if I'm keep saying that something is not good enough, then there's a part of me that's not feeling good enough. Right? So then like those feelings of not feeling good enough is then being projected onto this thing that I'm doing, right? But then it's just an internal thing that I need to go realize and ask myself like, okay, is there a part of me that's not feeling good enough? And if there's a part of me that's not feeling good enough, what can I do? Like, how can I love that part of me? So that I can just accept it within myself without judgments, so that like it's not loud and it's not trying to project it onto the thing that I'm doing, right? So therefore I'm able to just create for the sake of creating.
It slows down progress, to be honest. And I think you're very fortunate and that you have that awareness and you're able to like see that for what it is and go internally. But think about the regular everyday person that's out there, that's just living their life, and this is happening, and they just don't sit and sort of like turn inward and look at, oh, I'm trying to perfect this thing, but then it probably means that there's something in me that feels like it's not good enough. A lot of people don't have that sort of awareness.
It's an internal journey. Everything is an internal journey.
Or even if they do, like life is just happening. They're just going. They don't have the time to even stop and reflect and look at what's the correlation between what's happening externally and what's happening internally.
I mean, that's why we're having this conversation, right? Because like, I think like this conversation is like, okay, if you don't have awareness that the reason why you're trying to perfect a certain thing, I think if I don't know if you have even a few minutes, right? Ask yourself like, why are you trying to make it so perfect, right? Perfect to whose standards, right? Like, is there a part of you that, is like, if you're saying something is not good enough, like in my example, right? Is there a part of you that isn't feeling that, and that is why like you're putting so much pressure on this thing,
probably,
right?
Most of the time.
So and that is that's why we're having this discussion, so that like we can bring the consciousness and the awareness, right? That is the goal, right?
No, I 100% agree with you, and I think that's why it's important, and you've mentioned this so many times, to start your day with like intention. Set an intention, like what do I want to experience today, what do I want to, because then you go through your day in a much more conscious state. And so even when those situations arise outside of you that are negative, that would cause you to spiral, that would cause you, the grounding thing would be what intention did I set myself for this day? And so it's kind of like an anchor point that consistently just draws you back into, this may be happening, my mind may be spiraling, but this is the truth of who I am. This is happening, but this is,
absolutely. So, and the medicine of anything is always the opposite thing, right? It's like this morning I was telling you how I was like rushing because I have the high standards of like I need to be done by 10 a.m. because Joy is arriving at 10 a.m. because you know how high standards I have about time. I've told you this before. It's something that I need to work on in this lifetime. Literally my standards of time, like if you and I agree 10 a.m. my mind is fixated on the 10 a.m. on the dot, not even 10:01. That is how crazy it is. And like none of my friends are like
and
this.
You live in Kenya.
Yes, I told you this.
It's like African timing.
Yes,
people are never
I
on time.
know.
Like literally when you say 10 a.m., most likely it's gonna be 10:30 or 11.
That's
how bad it is here.
Let me tell you, the funny thing is like even if like you and I have interacted for like a year and I know that you're gonna be at 10:15, 10:20. My brain still doesn't compute. I still will look at the clock at 10.
Oh wow.
So it's this thing that I have like super high, because I also expect myself to, like if I say 10 a.m. I also expect myself to, because otherwise I wouldn't care. Like if I wasn't like that, like it starts internally. If I didn't have those high standards for myself of like being done at 10 a.m. Like when I host dinners, for example, this is like something I need to work on this lifetime. When I host dinners, it's like I tell my friends, okay, arrive at 6:30. If I told you guys to come at 6:30, I want 6:30, everything to be done.
Oh wow.
Everything to be ready. And maybe even on the table, right? So I have this thing with time.
You're a true Virgo.
So I have this thing with time, but I have Virgo friends that are not like that. So I have this thing with time where like it's such high standards for myself, right? So it's something that I'm aware of, right? I need to remind myself like it doesn't matter. It literally does not matter, right? Of course, unless you leave me waiting for 2 hours or whatever, there's certain things that don't matter, right? Like I have to. So it's a constant. Like you were saying, like other people are not aware. So even it's something that I have to bring awareness to. Like why is this a thing even? Why do you make it matter so much, right? So it takes like a lot of internal work to pass out like what is happening, and then the intention, like you said, the intention that reminds me that this is not something that you need to put so much energy and weight on, right? There's so many things, like you can embody patience, embody love, embody kindness. Like you don't need to put so much focus on this. So I let it go, right? But it's work, and the intention is so important because it reminds you of like how you want to show up, right? You want to show up as a whole person, because it's important to be whole than being perfect, right? It's important to just be authentic, be yourself, be whole, right? Like who wants a perfect thing?
No.
Right? We want realness. We want wholeness. That is what we should strive for.
That's true. I agree 100%. It's funny, like I was listening to you talk about time.
It's
mine is the opposite. Mine is the opposite of you. To be honest with you, it's something that I've struggled with in terms of consistently showing
up.
Make it on time. Make it on time. I'm not usually like ridiculously late, but there's always going to be that 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes.
I've noticed.
All the time, you know?
I've noticed. And like, even today I was like, why am I rushing when I know Joe is going to be like 15 minutes late or 20 minutes? I told that myself.
Honestly, it's like consistent, and I'm really trying to catch myself on that. And I don't know, like, and I tell myself like tomorrow I'm going to be there exactly.
I actually don't get it. Do you know that I don't get it?
What?
The idea that somebody is late, like I still don't get that.
Oh my goodness.
Because I'm like, okay, so if let's say you and I decide to meet at 10:30, right? How long does it take you from Klelasha to get here?
Oh gosh, 10 minutes.
So then how do you time it? Because if it was me and it takes me 10 minutes to drive, then I know that if we decide at 10:30, that I'm out of the house at 10:10 or 10:15. That's how my mind works.
Yeah, but you see,
that's how my mind works.
Okay, girl,
so then therefore that's why it's like hard for me to get
this side of things. On this side of things, I don't know how it works, but then something always comes up. Like you start getting ready. And then I pick up something else.
What do you pick up?
And then I'm doing, honestly, that's
I'm trying to get it
I'm doing something else last minute. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. It's something that I'm working on. And we can set a challenge actually, where let's see how many times I'm going to actually be on time.
Oh, I'm always going to be on time. And I'm always going to be on time. It's like, even if I know somebody's going to be late, it's just that how my brain works. And I love that. I think that I love that we're opposites in terms of that, because then it just means we're working
opposite things of the, like it's like the opposite side of the coin. And so, but this next half of the year, I'm really challenging myself to show up on time to everything.
And I'm also
challenging, and you caught it here, it's on camera, so
and I'm gonna challenge myself to also just be like flow, be easy, right? Because that is the internal work. Like you're doing the internal work of like, okay, being on time because you're on the, like not completely on the opposite, right? But because it's just such a high standard and there's no reason for it. Like I'm a whole person, there's no reason for rush. In fact, the universe doesn't work well with like a rushing energy of trying to be perfect. The universe doesn't reward that energy. It rewards wholeness, rewards authenticity, right? So I need to, like, my medicine of having this high standards of time is also realizing like there's something deep rooted with that, right? And then my medicine is to try to embody the opposite, not be late, but be easy. Like even when you're late, then I'm gracious, right? If you're 10-15 minutes late, it's not such a big deal that it ruins my mood. Because that used to happen.
Oh, really?
Like that used to happen.
You've always been very gracious about it.
Because it's internal work, right? I wasn't, and it's not like I would blow up or whatever, but it used to be that like I'm annoyed internally, right? And maybe I might not even tell you. But it's like if you left me waiting for 30 minutes, an hour, because I've been left waiting for 45 minutes.
Wow, that's a really long time.
No, I have, right? And then I get annoyed, right? And I'm taking that on. And I really, where I am in my journey, I don't want to take anything on. Because it really doesn't matter. I don't want to I can have a conversation of being like, hey, let's try to be on time, like let's respect each other's time.
But do you do that like on a consistent basis? For example, like when it's been too long, like when it's outside of the norm, like the 10, 15, which is kind of like the acceptable, when it goes way above that,
oh my gosh,
do you have the conversation to say like, hey, because I think that's a very good quality to have, like to be on time, to consistently show up on time. I think that shows discipline. It shows that you respect yourself, you respect the other person's time. That's a very good habit to have.
Right.
And so while you're also being kind and being gracious, I think don't forget that
I know.
That's a really good quality to have.
I'm never going to change in terms of time. That's just how I'm wired. I just need to not be too hard, right? On myself when I'm like, noticing that like I haven't gotten something done by X amount, whatever. I need to be easy on that so that I can also have grace for other people, but also recognizing that other people also have to respect, like, it doesn't need to be like you keep me waiting for a whole hour, right? You need to respect each other. So I think like I've been in cases where you can see that there's a reason. Maybe this person was stuck in traffic and that is why it ended up being 45 minutes, right? It's so hard for me to sit in that, right? But it's like I then force myself, and it's like if I'm hosting like a beautiful dinner, right? And somebody's like 50 minutes late, and so I don't want to like be sitting there holding resentment and we're having a beautiful dinner. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think, then maybe from what I'm picking up, I think your lesson is to not allow that other person's experience to ruin your experience or your mood.
Absolutely, because let it go, and then have a conversation and be like, hey, how can we just be respectful, respect each other's time, right? And not, because I literally don't want to take anyone's whatever and let it ruin my experience or like just have resentment. Like if there's one thing that I've tried to embody in the last 2 years is letting go. Like I literally don't want to hold anything, right? Like if I need to have a conversation with you, we'll do that, because I don't want to hold anything. I already have so much stuff that I'm dealing with.
I've also been practicing that, just letting go, forgiving, like just have the conversation when you need to have the conversation, because a lot of times also the internal negative dialogue that's happening within us is because of things that we either haven't expressed, things that have been left unsaid. So for example, someone annoyed you and irritated you, and you didn't outrightly say to them, you know what, you did this and this hurt me and this is how I feel about it. So what ends up happening is the longer that you don't tell this person, it takes up so much space within you.
You
hold resentment, you're having dialogues, you're having conversations of I should have said this to them, I should have said that to them, I should have, and so it keeps going. within you. You haven't let it go. You haven't finished it. So it's a continuum. Now imagine you're doing that with one person, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people. And what I've started to notice is when I'm feeling uneasy about something, if someone has done something that I'm not okay with or I've been hurt, I've found that having that discussion and just regardless of how it comes out, regardless of how it feels, it really tends to put my mind at ease.
Yeah.
Because then I've said what I wanted to say. I've spoken my truth. And so I don't have like all this mental clutter and internal dialogue going in. I'm not in the shower and thinking like, oh, Bamzi, this and this and this and this. Because you're holding that energy. And you're taking away your own peace and you're living in that negativity. But when you do have these conversations, it's a way of letting go. It's a way of that cutting that cord so that it's not consistently running and draining your energy. And I think that's how a majority of us, live life. I told you the other day when I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and this conversation, honestly, should have been had 2 years ago. And we sat down and we spoke, and in the beginning I didn't know how to start the conversation or how to say it, but I was like, you know what, I'm just going to be honest, I'm going to be authentic, and regardless of how it, it comes out. And since I had that conversation, it was like a weight was lifted off of me. And our relationship, I expected that maybe that's going to be the end of our friendship, or like it's done. The opposite happened because we both told our truth from our perspective.
Because you were whole. You're not trying to pretend that like this is not happening. This does not exist. You showed your real wholeness.
Yes.
You brought your wholeness. She brought her wholeness. Yeah. And therefore you were able to mend that. You were able to bring the vulnerability.
Exactly.
And that is what the universe rewards, because then the relationship expands. Yeah. Because we're willing to do that hard work.
Yeah. And I have felt that expansion within that relationship. And we're now able to sort of like even have deeper conversations. I found that, and I'm going to adopt that going forward, just having conversations with people, because then you're not also projecting, you're not constantly misinterpreting either what the other person is saying, what the other person is doing. Well, you know in real time that this is what it is. Yeah. And it restores so much of your energy.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're definitely going to have this conversation. It's one of the conversations that we plan on having about that specific thing. Yeah. How we both have had conflicts and we've resolved. So look out for an episode about this, this specifically. Yeah. But like what you just said about like having the conversation with another person, it's the same thing with yourself. Have you heard of internal family systems?
I have. I haven't explored it.
So I barely, like, I know a little bit about it. Yeah. But it's about you having like, it's like you're your own family. Yeah. So you have several parts of you within you, right?
So it's like, is that what they call like parts work?
Yes. So it's like you have anger, you have a judgment part of you, you have a person that criticizes you, have the shame, all of this. It's the shadow. It's similar to shadow work, where you have all these parts of you within you that make you a whole person, right? So no, I'm not just highlighting the negatives. You also have the beautiful light and whatever. But it's because I want to make this point of like, you have these parts of you, the one that criticizes you, the one that shames you, the one that judges you, the one that, loves you, like all these are like parts of you. Yeah. So like, as the same way you're having a conversation with a person to resolve a conflict that you have instead of holding it, it's the same way you need to have a conversation with the part of you that criticizes you, the part of you that judges you, right? You need to give it a mic. Right? That's the word that I call, like, you need to give it a microphone.
Give it a voice.
Give it a voice. Ask it. Like, literally do this.
We usually try to shut it down, like get out of the way.
Yeah, and but the more you shut it, the more it's going to have power over you.
Yeah, because it's throwing tantrums, like an inner child throwing a tantrum.
And that is why you find yourself in the spiral. That's why you find yourself identify. It's like you become one with it. Yeah. When you're separate from it, you need to separate yourself from it so that you can have a conversation, give it a mic and be like, Judgment, why are you judging? Like, why are you criticizing me? Like, what, because actually all of this, like the anger, the judgment, whatever, they serve a purpose, right? So you need to mind what they're trying to achieve. Like we talked about earlier, the perfectionism is trying to achieve this thing of like, give you the feeling of being good, good enough. So it's there for that reason, because you were told that you were not good enough when you were younger, or you had other people say those things, and you were programmed, right? So it's serving that purpose of trying to do that. So what is the critic part of you? What is trying to achieve? Ask it. And then it's like you're having that internal dialogue, like, what are you doing for me? What is there? What is your purpose? Even fear, it has a purpose. It's trying to protect you. So you need to ask it and just be like, okay, as you sit still, you have a conversation, and it tells you, it's because I want you to embody like the quality of you being this and that and that. And then you realize like what it's trying to do, because you've given it a voice, it stops having power over you. So therefore, like, next time you'll be like, oh, I'm gonna be whole, right? The important for me is to be whole and not try to have this huge high standards of myself when no one else is doing that. I'm just making it so hard in this human experience. But like, it needs to have a voice, otherwise its soul is going to have power over you.
That's a very good point. That's a very, very good point to have. And I like the part, that part about part work. I've heard of the concept, but I haven't really sat with it and done it. But I think it's something
that I'm going to do. It's very similar to shadow work. I really feel like it's very similar.
I think they're interchangeable. And it's really something that I'm going to embody, like, going forward, and like just sitting with parts of myself and sort of like looking into it, and what is it trying to say.
I told you about this book that I'm reading called The Gene Keys. Like, one of the things that he advocates for is allowing every single part of you to exist without judgment. So that's part of the work. Like, even the critic part of you, the part that judges you, the part that shames you, it's there for a reason, like I said. So you mind the goal, and then you just allow it. The wholeness means that you need to allow all these parts of you to exist without judgment, because they are part of you. They've been with you since you were younger. They will continue to be with you because they are there for a reason, and you need to allow them to exist without judgment, and that is how they lose power. That is how you kind of love them. Even you love them, you're like, okay, critic part of me, you are trying, your purpose maybe, like, for example, maybe I was thinking of the critique and the perfectionism, because I feel like those two go hand in hand,
interconnected,
right? And I have people that, that is their standard of trying to be perfect, and then they have this critique part of them that criticizes when they're trying to be perfect. But then you find that these people, like, the type of work that they do, the quality of work that they produce is like so amazing, right? So it's not a bad thing. When something is too much, that's when it damages you. When you let that perfectionism stops you from moving forward because you want it to be perfect. That's when it's harmful. That's when it's harmful. Sometimes it serves a purpose where, like, oh my gosh, like, I love what you produced, because you just have this high standards, right? Because it's trying to achieve something, right? So you need to do the internal work of accepting it and realizing what it's trying to do. And when you realize that, that's when it stops having power over you, and therefore you can choose how you want to show up. You still want to produce good work, you still want to produce quality work, not out of the need to just satisfy the part of you that doesn't feel good enough, but it's because it's like, okay, like, I love when my work is quality, because you brought it into your consciousness. Therefore it's not driving the show necessarily. You're producing quality work because you love quality work.
It's all about having balance,
right. As long as we're in this human experience, like, these are things that keep coming up. Like, I find myself criticizing myself from time to time, and it's just a reminder. I'm not on the other side where, like, I'm done. It's
part of the journey.
It's part of the journey. It's a part of the journey of me always reminding myself to love the parts of me that I'm feeling like they're harsh. It's a reminder to always see them as a gift. Every single time that a part of me tells me that I'm not worthy, every single time it's like, okay, you didn't do that well, right? It's like an invitation for me to go love myself even more. I even see it as like the best way to love yourself. The best way to embody radical self-love is to actually love the parts of you that you always want to push down.
Absolutely.
So therefore,
that's the whole point, actually, because those are the parts that you need to love. I mean, the parts that you love anyway. It's the parts that you don't love, the parts
hide from other people as well.
The parts that, that's where the work lies. Because if you love something, I mean, there's no need to work on it. the work is in where you feel inadequate, where you feel you haven't quite achieved what you want to achieve. That's what we're here to learn and to do.
So I think we're gonna come back to this conversation again, like we always will. We're gonna have part 2 to every conversation we have because there's just so much to talk about, and actually we would love to hear from you. If this resonated with you, and if you've been struggling with like criticizing yourself, shaming yourself, judging yourself, we want you to know that like these are all parts of you, right? They make you a whole person.
Absolutely.
And we would love to hear from you how like these things have been affecting you, and then maybe we can take your feedback and then expand this conversation with your input, right? So that we make it interactive, right? That's how we want to approach this.
Absolutely.
Because we want to help you along your journey, right? And your feedback will also help us, right? As we think about these things, right? If you've been listening, engage with us on YouTube, comment, rate us on Apple and Spotify.
And my parting shot for this is, if you would not say it to someone else, do not say it to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for watching or listening. We will see you on the next one.